guys, welcome back. It is good to be with you, and I am in the midst of, in fact, literally right in the middle of doing the RE/MAX commercial top producer interviews with some of the most successful people around the country and around the world, and industry leaders as well. And I'm excited for who we've got here today and who I'm getting started with. We've got Rod Canterbury, and we're going to talk to Rod here in just a second. And but pretty exciting. Our brand director made it very clear to me that, Mark, you want to talk to Rod. Rod's one of my favorite people. And there's something to be said in the real estate business about this whole likability factor, and that's something I want to talk with Rod about. So, Rod, welcome.
Good morning. How's everybody?
Hey, we're doing great. It's good to see you. Nice to see the big hat. So appropriate. I feel like I'm missing something on my head, though.
You got hair. I'm missing I got the hat to cover up no hair. So you got the hair. We're good to go.
All right. Well, I got the hair and the big headphones on today. So perfectly appropriate. In fact, I don't know that I've ever met Rod, and I was picturing Rod and thinking, I hope Rod has a big hat on this morning. And so sure enough, he got on the camera, and there he is, and looking like a land guy from down south, and a little bit something different than what we have up here in the north, and I welcome that. I love that opportunity. So, Rod, thank you so much. I am anxious for you to explain to our audience what, in your opinion, what makes for a top producer. You're a top producer. You're super successful in this business. You're super successful with the RE/MAX commercial brand. So let's get started with this. So let me ask you some questions to kind of lay the premise so that the audience understands who you are, where you're from. Let's start with, how long have you been in the business?
I've been in the business since 2007.
Okay, 2007. Now, are you a sales agent, broker owner, manager? Kind of what's the role that you play every day?
I am a managing broker.
Managing broker. So do you run, but you're a transaction guy. You're doing deals. Is that right?
I do deals. I do farm and ranch preferably, and I do my own deals. Yes.
Okay. Now, Rod, do you work with a team? Do you have other associates that work with you, other brokers or admin support, things like that? Or are you a solo agent?
I am a solo agent, but our office is very close as a family, so we all help each other out. I try to help them out as much as I can. I have more experience and schooling than they do, so I try to step in and help them out as much as I can.
Well, that's interesting. It's interesting the way you describe that our office is like a family. So you guys are all covering each other wherever you need to, however you need to. So I'm assuming, Rod, does that mean something like when you need some marketing help or offering memorandums or getting things online, you've kind of got the support that you need there?
We do. So say somebody... Well, like yesterday, one of them was out. They had to go see their dad. Their dad was having a little issue. We said, hey, is there anybody around that can step in? Actually, there was two people step up to the plate and said, hey, I'll be there. That way everybody's covered. I've had people call, can you go show this? I got to be somewhere. One of us will jump in and go show for somebody and take care of each other. We're very close office.
Now, so you said 2007, you got involved in our industry. What were you doing before that? Where'd you come from?
I was a construction worker, and I worked with cattle. We actually had a ranch in Colorado.
And so what got you in the real estate business?
My grandmother, she was in it for 27 years.
Okay, got it. So once again, you got to kind of peek at what a family member is doing, saying that seems to work pretty well. I think I might want that gig.
Yeah, she did residential, and I decided after that first year in 2007, I'm out. I'm going to go into farm and ranch. I've been into the farm and ranch industry since 2008, and I've been going there. It's been very interesting for me. I've had a pretty good career.
So let's talk about that for just a second. So when you came in the business, you were working on the residential side of things, and you decided you wanted to make a shift into ranch and farm. Is that right, Rod?
Yep.
And what spurred that? What said, the heck with some of this residential, I want to get on the other side of the fence, maybe literally the other side of the fence?
I was born and raised on a ranch in Canyon City, Colorado, and I'm 7th generation, so the farm and ranch came naturally to me. I still sell a few houses. This career, you kind of do it all. My profession is farm and ranch, but at that point, I knew I wanted to get into farm and ranch, and that's where I've been. I actually joined Realtor's Land Institute of January of 2008. Since then, I've been Actually, I sit as president now for the Oklahoma chapter for the Realtors Land Institute, and I also actually sit as on the national board also.
Well, that's interesting. I like understanding some of these designations and networking opportunities. So the Realtor Land Institute, I don't know a lot about it. The thing that always comes to my mind, Rod, when I'm thinking about you guys is ALC. I'm assuming, are we
Yes.
talking one and the same here, right?
Yes, I am an ALC. There is less than 1,700 of us in the through the whole time since our RLI or the Realtors Land Institute started. There's less than 1,700 of us. My number is actually 1682, and you work very hard, and I'm very pleased to have an ALC. I'm pretty proud of it.
Well, rightly so, Rod. Like big time. So as I teach and train, and in fact, we talked about this yesterday just a little bit with somebody. I put a slide up, and I'll talk with the audience about the various designations in commercial real estate and those which what the average earnings are with each of those designations. And of course, CCIM is held in such high regard for good reason. SIOR, similarly, but there's one designation that trumps both of those when it comes to average earnings, and it's not a little bit of a bigger jump. It's big, it's huge, and those are the ALCs.
Yes.
So it's an amazing statistic. In fact, it's a statistic that speaks for itself. That when I put that slide up there, I said, it's kind of a no-brainer, in my
Right.
opinion. If you're heading in any direction within commercial real estate and you want to put some credentials behind you that's going to give you some horsepower for earnings, ALC is it. So kudos to you. It sounds like you have, well, you're like the perfect recipe because your background fits in with what you're doing every day. You're passionate about it. You know about it. Let me talk about that for a second because I looked at some of your listings and your body of work. And I've sold more than my share of land here in our great Northland, so very, very different than what you guys have down there. But when we sell land, many times, I'm selling lands because I come from actually a small rural background, working on farms and all of that. But we don't sell agricultural land, we don't sell farms. But we sell land, and we sell land to commercial development and residential development. So, and obviously there are, things are done differently around the country because that's why real estate is also local. I looked at what you're selling and I'm like, some of this looks like it could get pretty complicated. So in other words, what I mean by that is, you're not just throwing a piece of land out there and crossing your fingers and waiting for somebody to come, because you're dealing with land, outbuildings, ponds, water, houses, livestock. Is that
Crops.
crops?
You got crops. You actually have crops. So you're looking at your production rate. So staying in that commercial side, you got your wheat industry, your corn industry, soybeans. There's so many different parts of the commercial part of a farm and ranch. Even into your cattle side. I actually run cattle myself still to this day. So you got to be able to look at that and look at your grasses when you're out going through one of these properties. You want to be looking, do we got clovers in Bermuda, or what kind of grasses do we got in here? Are we going to be able to run, is it going to be mostly a summer pasture, or are we going to be able to run year round? Kind of water, you're exactly right. There's a lot of different aspects that go into a property.
So much, so much. And so, one of the things, Rod, that we've talked with some of the other top producers about is this idea of residential agents working in commercial. And I'm going to spin it a little bit differently for you here. In our area, as I just mentioned, with farms and agricultural land, I will watch a residential agent sometimes, take that asset, take that type of property to market, and somebody who grew up working on farms, wasn't lucky enough to grow up with farmer parents, but I was lucky enough to work all the fields and hay and soybeans and all the rest of it. But there's so much to know. And there's so much unique knowledge, and that's what you are blessed with. I mean, it just runs through your veins. So when a residential agent who's out selling houses, do you think they're qualified to do what you do every day?
I can't say they're qualified because they don't actually step in and most of your residential agents are not going to be able to step in and produce or let the sellers know or let the buyers know we're producing this many bushels. This is going to be our yields. Uh, I work. This year I've worked a lot with some residential agents, and I try to coach them. I try to help them out as much as I can.
Right.
Uh, I don't. Everybody can be a top producer, and everybody can learn a different field. I have I have a couple of brokers in the office that do very well. They came from the farm and rent or came from the housing industry, and they actually sell in the ranch industry now. They've learned it. They do really good. It's just something it takes a while to learn, you know?
Yeah, so there you go. I think there's the kicker. And that is just like with anything else is can you make the jump? Can you get yourself educated and qualified to do it? And clearly you're doing it. You're mentoring these people, you're guiding them along, you're helping them so that they can make that kind of transfer over from the residential side over into farm and ranch. Just a curious question of mine. A lot of my questions are actually, they do come from my own curiosity more than anything. We are heavily burdened, and maybe burden's not the best word, lots of compliance. Up here in the Northland, we have a lot of compliance, as you might well imagine, whether it be the state of Minnesota or the state of Wisconsin, and our government jurisdictions. And I'm going to get specific about environmental. And so we're fighting the fight with environmental issues with all of our buildings, all of our land every day. This is an everyday thing that we're dealing with, whether it be the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency or whomever, Superfunds, et cetera. How big of a deal is farm and ranch in Oklahoma with what you're doing relative to environmental, be it, livestock and grazing and ponds and waterways or farm chemicals? Is this even an issue in what you do?
Yes, it is. Right now, Oklahoma's pretty open. We can do quite a bit here. They don't really. We're probably well. I know we're not the number one ag state. I believe if last time I checked, Florida was the number one cattle producer, but we are up there within the top five, I believe. It's the spray. They really watch our weeds and stuff like that. They're kind of putting a finger on that a little bit more. You're starting to see that. But besides that, we don't have building permits unless you're in the city limits. We can actually go in and be able to put up our barns and our stuff that we need to do. Our waterways, we have, for the most part, we have a tremendous amount of rain. So our ponds and our waterways are always usually doing pretty good, which, that's where our cattle and stuff, we actually use our creeks for our fences in some places.
So you're not necessarily, so when it comes to selling a farm or a ranch, you're not necessarily burdened with long due diligence periods around environmental issues per se.
Not so far.
Okay.
No, what our longest thing is just getting our abstracting. We are still an abstract state. I believe we are the last abstract state.
Well, that's interesting.
And I believe last year we became the last one. So for us to do even a cash deal in Oklahoma, I can tell you 35 to 45 days maximum or minimum to be able to close even a cash deal because of abstracting.
Exactly. No, that makes good sense. The good old fashioned abstract, as we would look at that fun document that we get to pass at a closing table. That doesn't mean a heck of a lot up here anymore because you got your title commitment and so. But you know what? We always love sharing that abstract because it's a piece of history. So that's interesting. Let's dive in. I want to get us toward this top producer discussion now a little bit deeper. Okay. And so you work very much kind of like as a solo agent, but you've got support around you. You got some people to back you up. I looked at some of your listings. You've got substantial listings. And so when I talk about kind of the size that you play in, that you're trading every day, asset size, it looks like you're anywhere from probably...
I do a lot from 400 to 800 acres. The short millions, million, 2 million, 3, 4 million. I have some listings. I just did a listing. I've got one in my books right now that's 10 and a half. It's 1,500 acres. It's borders Sequoia National Wildlife Area. It is actually a little different animal because of the way it sits. It actually sits up against the wildlife refuge, and it'd be a really good recreational hunting property. and we're actually, I mean, it's set up more for that commercial hunting side of it.
Right, right. So now I find this is perfect for top producer discussion here. So you said that might be about a $10.5 million asset. Is that right?
Yep,
Okay.
we're somewhere right in there.
But you play right in that space, similar to us, similar to many top producing Remax commercial brokers that kind of play in that $1 to $5 million range. That's kind of a very common space for us. How'd you get the 10.5 million? Someone you know, brilliant marketing. What got you that listing?
What got me my listing was my ALC and my knowledge. I actually had another agent referred over to me that is actually right here in town with me. Actually, I've been trying to get him to come over to me, but he hasn't made that decision. But he studied. He knew I knew how to go about and make that property work and be able to probably get it sold. So he referred it over to me and said, "I need you to take this for me. I cannot handle it."
So there too, as we talk with CCIMs, SIORs, ALCs, I want the viewer, the audience here, young brokers, older brokers, I don't care, to understand the power of some of these designations, which is, in my opinion, very different than some of the residential designations. I'm not going to dismiss what an ABR or a CRS is. It's just that many of these designations in commercial real estate, like what you had to go through to get your ALC, this is a lot of work and it's a lot of knowledge. And they want to make sure before they hand these designations out that the brokers are extraordinarily knowledgeable before they get that. And now you got that, and that opened up doors for you. And now you're moving up into some larger asset sizes. And so ALCs, Rod, is it fair to say that if you've got a referral, I'm assuming the first thing that comes to your mind is, let me go find a similar ALC in another state that I can send this business to. Is that fair?
I do, yes. I've worked a lot with ALCs all over the United States. I do a lot of stuff out of Colorado. As I said, I came from Colorado, so I work a lot with a lot of ALCs up there. I actually just was in Colorado doing a listing up there. I just got back actually last night, so I was up there. We was listing a big property in Colorado yesterday.
Well, good for you. Good for you. That's really cool. It keeps our business fun and interesting. You get to travel. I love that. I'm also licensed in multiple states, including Florida and Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. And I think that's one of the greatest things about our industry is that, we can have our associations or license and cross state lines and do it all legally. And it's just a fantastic thing. So moving on here, as I start airing us a little bit more toward this top producer discussion and marketing and prospecting and how you've become so successful, it looks like you carry a pretty fair amount of inventory. So the reason I ask that question is this, Rod, is there are some people in the commercial real estate industry, for a lack of a better cliche, is called hunting elephants, which again, probably is not terribly appropriate in today's world, naturally. But that is, those brokers who are trying to just, nail a couple, 2 or 3 mega deals a year versus filling up their pipeline and really cranking through a lot of transactions. What's your philosophy? Are you out there hunting the elephants and the big monster listings, or are you taking smaller business and are you mixing it up? But what helps? What's your pipeline look like to be a top producer?
So I am to be the top producer, my personal self, I take I work all listings. I have stuff from literally right now. I have a couple listings, $4,200, $6,500, all the way up to the listing I just did in Colorado is $24 million. I'm all over the board. I work. I have a very fun life. I enjoy my life very well, but when it's time to work, I work. I do a lot of traveling. We like to travel, so I do a lot of traveling. But when I'm around, I'm working, and I actually do. Even when I'm on the road, I carry my computer. I do a lot of work, and my phone rings, and so I take care of my people. Most everybody. That is one thing I will say. To be a top producer, you can't just sit back and watch it and expect it to come to you. You got to get out. You got to meet the people. I tell everybody I'm going to go out and pet babies and dogs. To go out and visit. The feed stores, to me, I hang out at the feed stores and stuff all the time because that's where, let's say, that's my type of people. So I'm out around them quite a bit, and I do a lot of prospecting out of it. I send calendars out every year. I go into the feed stores and put calendars in there. If anybody knows the old ranchers, them old ranchers have the little stick calendars, and they got them in their truck, and they're going to be on their dash. That way, they know what day it is, and they know when that calf is born. They put it on that calendar. Either that or a little book. And so that's, every time they open that book or every time they look at that dash, it says Remax Advantage Land Division and it has my name on it. They know who they're going to call.
Oh, I just love that. That's just too good. And here's such a simple idea. It's been around real estate for a long time. It couldn't be more relevant for your target market. You nailed it. Again, coming from small rural background, growing up most of my life in that manner. You're right. I mean, those calendars, they're critically important in for the agricultural world or the rural world. And I don't care if it's the local bank and there's their calendar or whoever else it is. So I find that so interesting as we look at, Rod, we look at all these other methods and ways of getting your name out there, building brand awareness and getting the phone to ring and all that kind of stuff. And here's such a very direct approach. Now, but the other side of this, let me ask you this. I find it interesting because there's a lot of differences and distinctions between residential real estate and commercial real estate. And, farm and ranch land is, this is another sector kind of in and of itself. It is in my opinion, it is such a specialty. But what I was going to say, Rod, is that in the residential side of things, one of the things they've shown is how important it is for the consumer for this likability factor. It's called likability, right? So you can go out there and say, I've got the greatest tech, I've got the greatest website, I've got the greatest this, that, and everything else. But then many consumers say, well, it also comes down to likability. You seem like you're a likable guy. You're out there shaking hands. You're handing out calendars. You're getting to know people. What's your thought on that? I mean, personality certainly has some. You're a hustler. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But I'm assuming also you're willing to strike up the conversation. And the next thing you know, now they know who you are and they like you and they want to do business with you. What would you say about any of that?
I agree with you 100%. I'm probably that person that'll talk to the post, I will, that post don't talk back, but I'll get on an airplane and I'll be headed to Tucson or I'll be headed somewhere. And I actually sold a place to one of the PBR judges and I met him on an airplane. He was headed to Montana to a, bull riding up there, and I was actually headed. I don't remember. I believe I don't even remember where I was headed. I think I was actually headed to Denver, but it was kind of funny. We got to talking, and he was actually looking for a property. I gave him a card. It wasn't long when he got back. He called me. I actually went over. We looked at a few places, and I actually, by the time it was over with, I ended up selling the property. I visit with people, and that's how you get that relationship started. I was just back in Colorado. I picked up 3 leads in Colorado that's going to be moving down here, and it's just because I visited.
That's and what I find interesting about that is kind of the obvious. Is that I'm going to call that old school. And I hate to even use words old school for that because it's like, well, no, that's just a person being a person. It's a person using their personality. It's something that comes naturally to you. But the thing is that what comes so naturally to you is so highly effective in you being a top producer. But yet, as we watch, and again, younger generation, don't take offense to this, please. But I hope what they're hearing here is that sometimes it might be better to get your head out of the phone and get a little bit of eye contact face to face and say, how you doing today? What are you up to? Who are you? My name is, and start having those conversations because quite clearly that's crazy effective for you.
Yep, it is. And I actually have a client here, kind of a funny story. I met him when I first moved down here and we have never bought a place. He does Airbnbs and rentals. We have never bought a place that was rented or that was for sale. He tells me he'll call and tell me, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying this." Okay, so how should we go about it? I've talked to him a couple times. Uh, we've bought 7 of them now. Every one of them, I walked up, knocked on the door, and I've sold that house. Sometimes it's not that day, might be a few months out, but I have sold out of 7. We've done 7 out of 7,
Wow.
and so we got 2 more we're working on right now. They just say one of them's giving me a run for my money. I'm about to meet my record, so I'm almost hit the 24-month, and he told me, "Are we really going to take 2 years to get this under contract, Ron?" And so he's giving me a hard time now because it's taking so long, but that's all right. We'll get it bought one way or another.
Well, what's interesting there too is if I understood this correctly, is that, he's saying, hey, I like that place over there. Agent, get after it. You're knocking on that door. You're having to establish a relationship that requires trust.
Yep.
Am I right on all that?
You're exactly right.
Okay, so now there's nothing easy about that. If someone comes and knocks on the door and go, hey, listen, you got a great place here. I got someone that would love to buy it. I'd love to figure out if we can make something work out here. Of course, most people would be like, who are you? Hang on. I don't know if I can trust you. So to have a record like you have, Rod, is unbelievable.
So, yep. And some of them I walked up with a contract and earnest money in my hand.
Interesting.
And it catches people's attention. Can't be shy in this business. You're shy, or to me anyhow, I've made a very good living being able to walk up and meet people.
So the most basic thing, don't be shy. So as I'm talking to you guys, as I'm talking to you top producers, I write little notes to myself. And I actually wrote that down. Now you look at that and go, well, duh. But it's like, no, there's nothing duh about that. You make a really good point. You can't be shy. You're going in there with the contract, with earnest, with your personality, being as straightforward. I'm going to look in the eye, tell it like it is, and be fair to you. And ultimately, that gleans huge business for you.
It does. And, you got to be confident. And for the young people that's out there that's just getting started, you're just be confident. Just walk in, and I know most everybody's got somebody behind them as a mentor, and that mentor's going to carry you. So that mentor's going to give you your balance. Walk in there, be confident, and if somebody asks a question, sir, let me get it back to you on that. I just quite can't answer that. Go back, ask the broker, or find out the answer. Be sure to call them back. Say, hey, I found out the answer that you wanted to know. Here it is. And at that point, they're like, hey, the person's he's wanting to work, figure it out. Now we're starting to move along. I just did that with a property down here. It used to be a dog food, where they made dog food, and nobody could get it listed. I actually just picked it up, and I'm actually going to put it on the listing probably within the next week. I'll have it up as an old dog food mill, and it actually runs and everything.
Super interesting. So just kind of like as a side note here, let me ask you this, because you alluded to this just a moment ago. We watch lots of people go in and get their real estate license, and we know that the odds of them succeeding is minimal to none. Mm-hmm. Right? 90%, 95% dropout. They're just not going to make it in this business because they just don't understand what it takes to be successful, much less a top producer. For someone to do the kind of work that you do, now I know in my world, for someone to go out there and sell offices or industrial or a Walgreens, net lease investments and those kinds of things, you're not coming out of real estate school. In fact, you're even 6 months or a year or 2 years in the business, you're still going to be hard pressed to get out there and be able to compete against those of us that do this every day. But would you suggest that anybody that wants to go in your line of work, are they going from real estate school and hanging that license to selling farms and ranches? Or would you say, listen, be smart about this and get yourself teamed up with some mentors and other people in the business? What would you say to those younger, newer licensees?
One of the first things I'd tell you is start getting on some of your education. It's not cheap, and I hate to say that. It's not cheap to have the education, but it's one of the first things you're going to want. With that education, if you're getting into the farm and ranch side and starting to do land, I would highly recommend the RLI. Check into your local, your state, and see if they got the Realtors Land Institute. If so, reach out to the president, talk to him. They will kind of help you kind of figure out who's around you and go talk to them. Most of the people that's involved have been there for a while, and even if they haven't, they've seen the value of the Realtors Land Institute. and that we're pretty close. I mean, all of us work very close together throughout all the states. Uh, I'd recommend to start really trying to tie into that and start going to their meetings and learn from them guys. They're knowledgeable. The ALCs are all knowledgeable. Most of your ALCs will help carry you out, and you can always call them. Anybody can call me. I don't have a problem. I get called from all over the United States quite often, and I have no problem. I answer the call as much as I can and answer the question.
Yeah.
And, every state's different, so I can't answer it in every state, but I will do my best.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. But most of us, we will answer our phone. We are happy to help. It's part of what comes with the territory. It's part of what comes with being successful, but we care to give back. We care to share the knowledge, and there's more than enough of everything to go around for everybody. Okay, let me shift gears. I got a lot of gears to shift to in a little bit of time here, Rod.
Yep.
So the first thing I want to get to is I want to hammer this point home. And the point I want to hammer home is what you just mentioned a little bit before, but I want to ask some questions about this. In about 30 seconds, 3 times you said I work a lot. Okay? Most of us top producers tend to work a lot. I do too. I work a lot. Now, maybe not 7 days a week anymore. I'm older. Fortunately, and I used to do 7 days a week and days and nights and everything else. And thankfully, I don't have to do that so much anymore. But we tend to work a lot. Now, you obviously like what you do. It makes it a little bit easier to say, well, I'm into what I do. And granted, not every day is going to be pure joy and bliss because you're solving problems, you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with all kinds of different issues. You've been able to achieve a level of balance, but how does your balance work? Do you say, listen, there's going to be some weeks where it might be off kilter. I might be really having to grind this thing out, and maybe I can't do the fun things I want to do as much or hang out with my friends or family as much. But how do you play that game between I've got to work a lot, but yet I want to have a decent life? Just talk to me for a minute about that.
So, I mean, we all run our own schedule. So with us running our own schedules, I mean, I run cattle, like I said, so I actually have a double job. Anybody who runs cattle knows that's a full-time job by itself. So I run real estate, I run cattle. I still make time for me. Summertimes I like the lake. I have a lake house, and I enjoy the summertimes. I go to the lake, and usually Saturdays and Sundays, if I need to go show, I will go show. I have no problem. I've done it since 2007. I have no problems taking it, but I try to schedule my stuff as much as I can during the week. Needless to say, I understand a lot of the people that's buying, they cannot get off during the week. Most everything I do, my bigger stuff, most of them guys can come in about any time they want. And, you start getting somebody looking at $10.5 million place. Most of the time they say, let's go this. My family's going to be off during the week or during the weekend, and I want to go do something with them. So that's a little different. I guess once you get built up and able to do that, it actually helps out a lot. But for a while, I moved not knowing a soul from Colorado. I did not know anybody in Oklahoma. And I can tell you that first couple of years, I worked around the clock. I made sure I got known. I made sure everybody knew when I said I was going to be there at 9, I was there at 9. I got myself trusted throughout the community. My community knows me very well, and I built myself up. So now people have got to know me, and they know my work ethic. They know I work hard when I'm working, but they know I like to go play too. So everybody respects that. And it takes a little bit for you to do that, but it takes that hard work ethic off the get-go to learn it, to do it.
I think you said it perfectly. I really do. It mirrors my world. It mirrors many of my associates and friends in the business who are also top producers. We want to live the good life. We worked hard to earn the good life. No one's given it to us. We like to go to the lake, spend time with kids, spend time with my wife, spend time with family and friends. At the same time, when work is on, we're taking care of it. So I think you said that really, really well, Rod. And you're also right in the sense, I mean, not that I need to tell you you're right, but I concur with you that, one of the reasons that I chose commercial real estate, there were a couple key reasons. One reason was the little bit more of a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, because I knew the people that I'm buying and selling for were going to have a schedule similar to mine, kind of like what you just said. when you're dealing with some of these other types of assets, saying there is no conflict because they're doing the same thing we want to be doing at the same time. And I also chose commercial real estate knowing that in this particular market, I want to be able to get beyond $300,000, $400,000, $700,000, and I want to be able to move up into $1, $2, $3, $5, $7, $10 million assets. And commercial real estate, probably like large size ranches, affords me that opportunity. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what you do, and we touched on this a moment ago, and I think I'm kind of getting a flavor for how you've built yourself so successfully. I can see this picture coming together for me, Rod. But let's talk about marketing for a little bit. What are you doing? I mean, you're doing the calendar thing, but when you get a new listing, are you pushing that new listing out to existing property owners, people who have bought other ranches, investors? When you sell something, are you pushing that out? Do you do a newsletter? Do you do any other kinds of marketing communications? Do you play with social media at all, or do you have people around you that help you with that? Tell me about some of those other marketing communication tools, if they come to play in your business and your success, or not at all.
Okay, so marketing, I actually have a platform. So I'm exclusive to a unique group. It's called American Farm and Ranch. I'm exclusive for the whole state. They run all my social media. So with that being said, they do everything. I have a full design team, everything. So if I need brochures, if I need anything, it's helped me out a lot. So with that, I'm a little spoiled being that way because it gives me my chance to be able to get out and, again, shake hands and pet babies. I do steak cook. I'm very involved with my communities. So there's multiple towns we are in. And so I, even for the other agents, I will go with them or go over to if they're having a parade, I'll go sit down with them and help them, advertise and do things at the parades. We have steak cook-offs and rib cook-offs. I actually sign up for that and I give away free food. People come by and they get corn or they get steaks or they get, we cut it up and everybody gets a bite. I'm trying to think what else I do. I go to a lot of the sale barns and sit in the sale barns and meet people. I keep cards in the sale barns. That's my career. I do land. I mean, what better place can you go than a sale barn to, where they have cattle? So I do a lot of time in them. We do a lot of social media. I actually have 3 different platforms of social media. I have a personal lady that does some for me. And I have Land Hub, which I just seen. And for all you guys that's watching, there's a new Land Hub just came out for everybody. I think it's a 2-month free trial for everybody. I think you get it free. I'm going to tell you, I run Land Hub. I love it. I've been with them for a long time. All you guys look at it. It's pretty interesting. But anyhow, I use them, and they do a little social networking for me. And then also I have the AFR. So my social networking, I do a lot of geofencing and stuff like that. We have different things that we put together on how to go different states, different ways to go where we focus, where we've seen a lot of people coming from. So we focus on them areas. So
here's what I just got from that. You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. And I think that's what I want the audience to understand here. And as I did my interviews yesterday, Rod, with top producers, and I thought through, what did I come away with? What did I learn from you guys? And one of the things I learned is that we do a lot, and it's not unique. All of us are doing a lot. So in other words, we're using all the channels available to us, all the marketing channels. You know who your target market is so well. You know how to get in front of your target market. And so your target market is so embedded within the community. Most of ours are. Commercials, people who might own an industrial building is a little bit different than someone might own a ranch. So your ability to go do parades or be in those sale barns and those kinds of things is so smart because it couldn't be more direct to your target market. At the same time, you're not saying I'm just hanging my hat on that, I'm also have the other networks, resources, and tools and people. So people, systems, and tools, as we like to talk about in our business so often. And it sounds like you have taken full advantage of all of that, so that you're not missing a beat. So kudos to you. That's really impressive.
Another thing I do, Mark, also is I'm a little unique. Being with the Realtors Land Institute, uh, Colorado and Oklahoma have started also, and we do a marketing session. So 3 times a year, every quarter, we have a marketing session. It's a 1 day deal, and we bring in packages, and then we get up in front of the different brokers that's at that Colorado. Like Colorado's is going to be, I believe, next Thursday. I'm going to miss it. I got to be at the symposium, but you get up in front of 40 to 80 real estate. I mean, elite brokers through the real estate or through Realtors Land Institute, and you present that property. For most properties, they've never had a broker represent that property and take it to another state, or even represent it the way you do to other people. I mean, you get up, you have 60 people asking you questions on that. You better know that property. You want to know it in and out and be able to get the questions answered and move on to the next ones. So I do that with most of my properties. I take them around and present my properties throughout the different states.
Super interesting. I like that. I can see why you are as busy as you are, but I also, am extraordinarily impressed that you've been able to achieve that balance with everything else too. Before I get into some of the attributes of a top producer and get your opinion on that, because I want to, that's kind of how we're going to wrap this thing up. Brand. Let's talk a little bit about this for a moment. And, brand can play a different role, in my opinion, depending upon what you do. If you're selling houses, if you're selling, Walgreens and CVS pharmacies, or if you're selling farms and ranches, or if you're selling airplanes or boats, brand can sometimes matter. How much does brand matter to you? Is it the brand? Is it the agent? Is it both? What would you say about that, Rod?
So I came as an independent. So I was an independent company in Colorado. I back then you just didn't see the farm and ranch world in too many of the franchises. So when we moved here 5 years ago, that was kind of one of the big things. We did not know anybody. We needed the number one brand. That's the reason we picked Remax. We ended up here. I will tell you, I was about 2.5 years in. I wanted a land division side of things. I had been talking to a few people trying to get it going. About 2 years ago, we got it settled up, got everything figured out how I could do a land division. And from there, it has been crazy because I actually have people walk up to me on the street and say, I did not know Remax had a land division. How do we sell, or how do we get our property in with you? We love Remax now. So it's been, I would say, yes, it is. It's a brand is a major deal. I do not miss being an independent. I'll never go back to being an independent. I'll tell you that.
That's good. That's quite
way too much work.
it's quite the plug for Remax, and I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm glad to hear that brand carries, and I would think it would. I would think that after 50 years in the marketplace and billions of brand impressions, you're dealing with a lot of consumers, and so when you're dealing with the consumer, the everyday person, I would sure think and hope that after 50 years, that brand has done an excellent job. Our brand has done an excellent job with penetrating the market awareness, but also, Remax just is in that world is held in just extraordinarily high esteem. So I'm glad to hear that's worked for you. Now let's get down to our final minutes, and I want to talk a little bit more about your opinion on attributes. Okay, so now I think there's a finite number of attributes that make for a top producer. Now let me ask you this question first, and I'm going to get you a series of questions here. Can anyone be a top producer, or might there be some unique personal characteristics that make for a top producer?
Well, I think it's all about the heart. I believe anybody can do it. you just got to have you got to have the sight and you got to have the heart to go do it. If you put your heart and your mind to doing something, you can do it. I don't care who you are, you can do that. And I truly believe that in anybody. Uh, I've watched people that coming through growing up, I've watched people that say they could do something and they get it in their mind and their heart to do it. They can do it, and they actually come out very well at it. So you asked me that question. I think anybody could probably become a top producer. It's just going to be mind over matter how much they want to do it. At that point, if they want to, they're going to be able to get it done.
And so, kind of with that though, so maybe the qualifier with that heart and mind, which I surely don't disagree, but maybe what also might come with that heart and mind is that work ethic, because
Yep.
without a work ethic, it's kind of tough. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and that's going to be part of the heart. I mean, you that heart is what's going to drive that. And that work ethic, and like you told me, or like we was talking, it takes that 2 or 3 years to that really hard grind. I mean, day in day out to get it done. But you put your mind to it, you're going to get it done, and you come out on top. So top producers, I mean, and I don't know any of them that haven't done that. You can't just sit back and expect the work to come to you.
And the other part is, it sounds like, I know in my earlier years, and my earlier years weren't when I was in my 20s or really almost even in my 30s, but I did a lot of grinding through my 40s and beyond. Sacrifices. I mean, when you made your move, it sounded to me like you said, listen, if I want to get to meet my goals, if I want to live the kind of life I want to live, I'm going to have to probably sacrifice a few things over here to get to over there.
Yes.
And so it seems to me that some of us, or maybe within our generations, we're willing to say, I will sacrifice a few things to meet those goals. And sometimes I'm not sure if a younger generation can fully understand that, hey, you might need to realize that you're going to have to grind it here before, everything comes flowing to you. So those sacrifices, you certainly put your time in doing that, right, Rod?
I have, and you can't be scared to learn new. Needless to say, I struggle with a computer. That is my weakest point, is that computer. Where you're weak at, and you're weak at, try to find somebody to fill in that hole. That's the reason I have a social media team behind me, is because I don't do well. So I know that I've learned that about myself, that I struggle with the computer. I struggle with that social media side. So I set somebody in there to fill that hole. And now that hole that I was weak in is a very strong hole. And that brings everybody up that sets you in the next key above.
So, I think one of the things that I would like people to come away with is this idea that, no, you don't just have to spend, 30 years having to grind it out before you're going to finally be a top producer. And so people say, well, what about the working harder versus smarter? When I look at you, I look at this and say, here's an individual that certainly has done the hard work. He's also done the smart work. He has the tools, the resources, the education, the network that has propelled him to the top of his profession. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a combination of, it isn't working harder versus working smarter. It's both. Would you agree there?
Yes. Yes, I would. I would agree 100%. I mean, yes, I would agree. I mean, you got to look at both sides, and you got to look at everything and kind of look at your costs. Are we going to do, you can't just throw all your eggs in one basket. You got to have multiple eggs going on, or multiple baskets for your eggs, and make all the baskets work for you.
So if to summarize, give me your summary, and if you said it before, say it again, Rod. But if I go to you and I say, I don't care if you're looking in the mirror or you're sitting at one of those Realtor Land Institute and you're watching one of those elite brokers stand up and talk about their offerings, and you look at those people and you go, what makes them so darn successful? What is it?
Most of us is our personality. We talk to, like I said earlier, I think about every one of us can talk to a post. We put our time in, and we mentor. Most of us are mentors to the younger people and help them. And the trust. There's a lot of trust that we've built throughout our career to be where we're at. Uh, it just takes that personality and the hard work to get you there. And I believe everybody can be there. You just got to look at the long term instead of the short term, and tell yourself, okay, in 5 years we're going to be here, not just getting us started.
So Rod, you gave, whether I don't think you meant to, but you gave me the answer I was looking for, and you answered that question with personality. And I guess I'm talking to somebody with a lot of personality, and I see a lot of your success because of that reason. I also see that that's a commonality amongst many top producers. They are, I don't necessarily want to say they're people. I'm a people person per se, but we obviously need to be able to deal with people. And some people might be a top producer and they're on the phone and they're working it, or they're great behind a computer. But personality goes a super, super long way. So I think, and the reason I bring it out like that, Rod, is because you exemplify it, but also for those people coming into the business to say, here, if you want to see what makes someone like Rod so successful, understand that personality is a big part of this. So what can you do to use that, if you've got one, to go out there and get in the real estate business and be successful? This has been a pleasure. I've heard a lot about you. It's great to get some time talking with you, Rod. I'm going to be at Symposium coming up. You're going to be there. I can't wait to see you. So I look forward to that. And I
look forward to myself. That'll be a good time. I'm looking really forward to being at the Symposium. We're going to have a really good panel out there. I'm pretty excited. We put a land panel together, and I think it's going to be something for everybody to come watch. I'm super excited.
I'm excited for it too. And even from somebody that sells land, I have a lot to learn from guys like you. And I look forward to being able to learn that. So I look forward to that big time. Rod, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way? Is there an email address or something that you can give us that we can get up on the screen?
Yeah, it's going to be Rod, R-O-D, Canterbury, CANTERBURY at remax.net, or you can call me. My number is 918-424-1505.
All right, that's beautiful. I love it when someone throws that number out there. They're not shy one little bit.
Nope. Give me a call if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer. If I can't answer, I guarantee we'll figure out how we can answer it.
I love that. I love it big time. And I sure do appreciate this time to be part of our RE/MAX Commercial Top Producer interview panel here, Rod. So thank you. I'll see you soon. And listen, hey folks, I hope this was helpful to you. It was to me. Again, every single one of these I learned from these brokers. I'm looking for those, half dozen nuggets. We certainly got it with Rod here. Thanks for being with us. We've got more coming for you, so I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks again, Rod.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
All right.